Hello, this is H.C. Bailey, and welcome to a special bonus episode of Let's Play Final Fantasy XIII! Today, we're going to have a little tutorial about how to upgrade equipment. So, let's go to the save station. Now that we have the Omni-kit, we can select Upgrade. Now, for the majority of the game, I'm going to avoid upgrading weapons. The reason is because our resources are very limited right now, and weapons only apply to a single character, whereas accessories can be moved around for whenever you switch parties. So let's start there. So let's take a look. I like to alphabetize my accessories, but anyway, let's take a look there. Now you see on the left there, we have an accessory that has a level. You see Power Wristband, level 1, and experience. It's just like any other RPG. You know, when you get enough experience, you gain a level, which increases your stats. Or in this case, the effect of that piece of equipment. Like in this case, you'd get more strength out of it if you gained a level for your Power Wristband. To gain experience, you basically dump your trash loot, or your, in this case, components, into your equipment. Kind of like a Mr. Fusion, but it's more complex than that. There's two kinds of accessories in the game, organic and inorganic. The game doesn't directly tell you which is which, but you can usually tell by the name or by sorting your components. Press the square button, categorize, there you go. You got it all set. But you can usually tell because like the organic components are at the top, like a fang from a dog or whatever, that's organic. Whereas a digital circuit is inorganic. So your inorganic ones are at the bottom. Another general rule of thumb that I like to use is that organic components usually give less than 100 experience. Like that's going to give me 22 experience per sturdy bone that I dump into it. Whereas inorganic components usually give more than 100 experience per. And this isn't always the case, but for my purposes, that'll work for what we want to do. Now the difference between the two is how they affect experience and the experience multiplier. Organic components give very little experience, but they help improve your experience multiplier up to a maximum of triple growth. Inorganic components, on the other hand, give a lot of experience, but they actually will reduce your experience multiplier to a minimum of 1, which is what everything starts at normally. Now, all equipment has a maximum amount of experience it can hold, so what you usually want to do is to max out your equipment on your experience multiplier first with organic components, then dump a ton of inorganic components into it all at once to max out the equipment before it'll reduce that multiplier. So let's take a look at boosting the experience multiplier. Basically, let's start here. You just want to dump it in there one at a time. Now you could dump it in there all at once, but you usually don't want to do that because you'll get incremental boost to your experience multiplier, or incremental upgrades to it as you upgrade, or as you keep on dumping components into it. Okay, you see there? So now I have 25% more experience for all future components that I dump into it. So even organic components that I dump into it will get a little more experience, and that little bit adds up over time. So I would just dump it in there one at a time so you don't end up wasting some of them. So there you go. Now you see that multiplier? That's 25%. So that's how you know there. Now, how do you know how much total experience you need to max out a piece of equipment? In-game, you don't. It's basically trial and error. I mean, there's an incomplete list on GameFAQs, or maybe the guys finished it by now. I don't know. Last time I looked at it, it wasn't finished. But in general, I would just max out the multiplier, save, then try some amount of components until you figure out how much experience you need to max out the piece of equipment. Now, once you do that, by the level there, you'll get a star rating once you've maxed out a piece of equipment. So, and then you can do one of three things with it. You can either equip it for the boosted stats, you could use a catalyst on it, or you could dismantle it. Like you go here, you can dismantle an accessory or a weapon there. Now at this point, at this point, if you want to further improve your accessory once it's maxed out, then you need the right catalyst, which is another type of component, like that, the millerite that I found earlier, but, well, I already sold it. But that was a type of catalyst. Now, at this point, for everything that we've got, we don't have the right catalyst. And we're not going to for a very long time, so don't worry about that. But basically, you dump the catalyst into your equipment, and it transforms it into the next upgrade. So, like, for example, if you maxed out an iron bangle and then used a millerite on it, it would become a silver bangle. So that's another way you can improve your equipment. But anyway, like I was saying, you can also dismantle equipment into various components and items. Like, for example, the Doctor's Code. A lot of people have been telling me about that, but I don't want to do that. But if you max it out and then dismantle it, you'll get better items this way. So pretty much that's the only time that you really want to dismantle something. I don't think there's any reason why you'd want to dismantle something without maxing it out first. So like with the Doctor's Code, if you dismantle it when it's maxed out, you'll get a Fortisol, an Aegisol, an Aethersol, and an Elixir. But I wouldn't do that because I'm going to be using the Doctor's Codes eventually. And there are some really, really good items that you can only get through dismantling, or at least that's the easiest way of doing it. And I'll go over that when we get to that point. So what I want to do is, let's start by maxing out the Power Wristband. It requires 4,720 experience. And then I also want to max out the Black Belt, which requires 4,380 experience. So let's get to it then. Now I know what you're thinking, viewers. H.C. Bailey, why don't you max out a Magician's Mark for your magic users? Well, the reason is twofold. First, I'm sure a Magician's Mark will increase your magic stat, which will allow you to damage enemies more with magic, right? The problem is that Vanille and Hope are going to be especially vulnerable to damage in the upcoming chapters. And without a black belt, you're going to be either using potions or switching paradigms to use a medic a lot, which is going to greatly drag your battle time and more than compensate for whatever increase in damage you're going to be doing with a Magician's Mark. But more importantly, I actually did some testing on my battle efficiency. Remember the target time that you see at the end of every battle, right? That is partially based on your stats. Whichever of your strength or magic stat is greater for that character, the game is going to use that stat to calculate your target time. So in short, if you're stronger, the game's going to expect you to finish the battle quicker and reduce your target time. Now, in my testing, increasing your strength stat reduces your battle time in proportion to the reduction in your target time. So it's a win-win situation. I mean, you have less time to get a 5-star rating, but you are faster because you're stronger. So, like, let's say it would reduce your target time by 30 seconds if I equipped a power wristband, but it'll reduce my battle time by 30 seconds too, or about that, you know? So that's okay. But with your magic stat, that doesn't seem to be the case. It usually seems to be about like half that. Like, if it reduces my battle time by 30 seconds, it's only going to reduce my target... if it reduces my target time by 30 seconds, it'll only reduce my battle time by about 15 seconds or something like that. So it's not nearly as big of an impact as it is with strength. So it's a lot harder to achieve a 5-star battle rating with magic boosting equipment. So you'll get less rare item drops, and, well, I'm just really OCD like that. Now, as for my opinion of this equipment upgrading system, as long as we're still working on this, I'm okay with the equipment upgrading system in Final Fantasy XIII. I mean, it's certainly a step in the right direction from Final Fantasy VIII and X. I mean, yeah, they were the first times they were starting to do that, and now they've tweaked it and worked on it. It's a little better now. But in general, I've just never really liked battle mechanics that require you to forge or upgrade equipment. I mean, in any RPG, not just this game. I mean, anything, you know? I mean, why bother? I mean, what was so wrong with buying or finding equipment, you know? I mean, I think Final Fantasy IV and Chrono Trigger did the best job of balancing it all out. I mean, buying equipment was essential for most of the game, so money was still useful. Finding equipment was really good instead of, like, useless potions all the time, like back in the NES days. And I mean, sometimes you even had to complete a side quest to get the best equipment too, and I love that. And I love how they did it in Final Fantasy IV with the optional, well, I don't know if you'd call them super bosses, but, harder bosses towards the end of the game. I mean, that was just phenomenal. It made me feel like I was really earning my equipment and advancing my characters, or character progression, So I really liked that. Now, upgrading equipment in most RPGs is just tedious to me, or forging equipment, or whatever. You have to go all over the world to find the right components, or enemies who drop those components, or farm money to buy the components, and then you upgrade your equipment. Just buy the damn thing. Of all the RPGs I've played, I'd say Chrono Cross did the best job of the equipment upgrading system. It was simple. They told you exactly what you needed at the blacksmith there, and you usually got the right components over the natural course of the game anyway, except for stuff that would make you nigh invincible. So that's my take on upgrading equipment, and I hope you've enjoyed this bonus episode of Let's Play Final Fantasy XIII. This is HC Bailey signing off. Have a good day.